tahniah kepada guru-guru kita kerana memilih guru sebagai profession. Izinkan saya meneruskan sesi perkongsian saya dalam bahasa Inggeris. Many people have talked in print media and social media about the CFR and English language reform in Malaysia. As one would expect, there are different perspectives. Some are good and some are not. My aim here is not to address these different ways of thinking, but to talk about the reform itself, the reform in relation to the CFR, the reform in terms of the alignment of the English language curricula in schools with the CFR, and the reform from the perspectives of those who are directly involved and affected by it, our teachers. Now, the most important question that we need to ask ourselves when we talk about reform is that, what are the critical ingredients for successful educational reform? We have, as a nation, produced a roadmap. We have, as a nation, produced a roadmap, and in that roadmap, we have come up with the implementation plan for 10 years, 2015-2025. And in that roadmap, we have clearly identified the nation aspirations for our children. What is more important is not the document itself. The document itself is just a document. What is more important is the people who implement this document. And these are our people in the various agencies, our lead agencies, and relevant entities. They have to be actively involved in the implementation. And they've got to play their role in order to ensure that the implementation is successful. Now, we tend to forget who this reform is for. We tend to think what is important is the reform, is the document. It is not. What is important, or I say who is important, is our children and their learning. This should be the focus of the reform. In order to help our children to achieve the aspirations that we have set for them, we need teachers. Teachers are the ones who will make sure that the reform is implemented, that our children get the education that they should get. So we need teachers with the necessary knowledge and skill, which is the know-how. We need teachers, more importantly, who care. Teachers who care, and teachers are willing to sacrifice for the children and have a clear understanding what the reform is involved. And that is very important. Now, what is the aspiration? Our aspiration as a nation is to bring our English language education up to international standards. Why do we need to do that? To enable our young people to become proficient and effective communicators in English, prepared for work, prepared for college. And this explains why the reform involves adopting the CFR. So we are talking about implementation which involves people doing different things at the same time, yet at the same time they work together to support each other so that our children can have what we call the best possible education that they deserve from us as an independent nation. The CFR has been a hot topic and has been discussed and described in the media since we said we're going to align our English language education to the CFR. What is the CFR? Now, the CFR is actually a framework of reference. It describes a learner's language ability at 6 levels of language proficiency: A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. For each level, the CFR describes what a learner can do in reading, in listening, in speaking, and writing. It gives a teacher a clearer idea of what different levels of proficiency actually mean. And this will enable our teacher to measure the student's progress at each stage of learning. Curriculum developers, and course designers, and assessors can engage with CFR as a way of reviewing their own current practice, to improve it by drawing on ideas and resources set out in the CFR. The next question we need to ask ourselves is, how does the CFR contribute to the improvement of our own English language program? People have asked me these questions many times. Well, let me explain. There are three ways how the CFR has contributed to the improvement of our English language program. One, the CFR enables us to set target proficiency levels at the end of each stage of education. Why is this important? It is important because we can then help our children to move towards that target. If the children do not yet achieve that target, our teachers can then have some intervention program to help our children move up to that target. Number two, it helps us to define different proficiency levels and gives us a common language to describe them. For example, when the teacher uses CFR, teacher A will talk about student proficiency level in this way. Teacher B will also describe the proficiency level in the same way. Let me demonstrate afterwards and see how teachers can describe their students' proficiency level. Next, I think which is very important, it focuses on what students can do rather than what they can't do. I remember when I was a child, I wouldn't say a child, I was a young teenager, studying in Penang. Then I moved to Kelantan. I got two teachers whom I still remember until now. The first teacher focuses on what I can't do. The second teacher focused on. The first teacher focused on what I can't do. The second teacher focused on what I can do. Now you ask me which teacher has made me the way I am now. Of course, it is a second teacher. So the CFR, one thing good about CFR, it makes the students feel good about themselves because they can do it. That's very important. And when we use the CFR to set the target at each stage of education, for example, preschool, they are moving towards A1. Primary, year 3, from moving towards A1, they're going to A1. Year 6, A2. Secondary, Form 3, B1. Form 5, B1. So Form 3, we estimate, we think of about the students maybe perhaps low to mid, and Form 5 perhaps mid to high. Now these targets are targets based on the 2013 baseline study. So it is based on evidence. And we revise this target in the light of the 2017 evaluation study. Now what do this target enable us to do? Number one, it allows us or it enables us to set more specific curriculum targets. Number two, it enables us to select materials and other learning resources that are appropriate for that level. Number three, very important, that it offers us a means to map the progress of our students, enabling their progress to be measured at year 3, year 6, Form 3, Form 5. Of course, at preschool, they can do whatever they like. As long as they enjoy themselves, we are quite happy. But the moment they come to primary school, we still allow them to do what they like. When they are a little bit older, then we tell them, or we then make sure that they are able to reach A1. In March 2018, 149 master trainers were trained to create a cadre of empties in formative assessment principles and practices. Now, why is this important? Whatever we do, especially when we are changing the curriculum, we need to make sure that our children are able to progress. And our teachers know how to assess the students so that they can use this as evidence to help the student, to help them adjust the teaching to the students' needs. That's why we need formative assessment, and that's why we train our teachers to make sure that they know how to conduct formative assessment in the classroom. Now, the next important thing about the CFR is that the CFR actually describes to us learners' ability in that language. Now, in the past, we describe a learner as either elementary, or rather the learner's language proficiency as elementary, intermediate, and advanced. But what these actually mean, we do not actually know, because it is not well explained. Then the CFR in the same way also identifies 3 broad levels of language proficiency, each having 2 tiers, as I said before: basic, A1 and A2, independent, B1 and B2, proficient, C1 and C2. But the CFR goes further and specifies what learners are able to do at 6 specific levels using can-do statements. For example, at level A1, learners can introduce themselves. I am Amina. And at level B1, they can produce simple connected text on familiar topics. At level A1, students can understand and use basic phrases relating to everyday life. They can introduce themselves and ask and answer simple questions about themselves, where they live, people they know, and things they have. They can interact in a simple way if the other person talks slowly and clearly and is willing to help. At level A2, students can understand sentences and frequently use expressions related to areas of immediate concern. They can describe in simple terms about their background and immediate environment. They can handle very short social exchanges and ask and answer questions about familiar and routine matters, including performing simple social functions such as greet people, ask people how they are, and react to news. If you look at level A1 and level A2, it is almost the same, but the difference is that at level A1, students still are confined to talk about themselves, whereas at level A2, they have moved to performing simple social functions, and they are able to understand sentences, whereas in A1, they understand basic phrases. Now let us look at level B1. At level B1, students are becoming more independent and can understand familiar matters regularly encountered in school, at leisure, etc., provided that the input is clear and in standard English. They can produce simple connected text on familiar topics or topics of personal interest, and can describe experiences, events, dreams, hopes, and ambitions. They can maintain interaction in getting across what they want to for example, give opinions, provide reasons for their opinion, provide explanations for plans, and make a complaint. So at level B1, these students should be able to give their views and opinions. Now, what is important about the CFR is that the CFR is very positive in nature. It focuses on what a learner can do and not what a learner cannot do. And this will help learners, even those less proficient, to see the value of learning and to be motivated to learn and improve themselves. The adoption of the CFR as a governing framework for English language education makes it necessary to change the curriculum in some ways. But aligning the curriculum with the CFR does not involve a complete change. It makes us critical what we have done so far. And what's important, it creates opportunities for improvement. I think that's why I like it. It is not just changing the curriculum. It is for us to look at our curriculum in a critical way so that we can improve the curriculum to help our children. The next question people will ask, what does the link to the CFR involve? Well, when we link our curriculum to the CFR, we need to do the following. If you remember, I said earlier that we have set targets proficiency levels at every stage of education. Because we have done that, we can set curriculum targets. And these curriculum targets are based on the target proficiency levels, that is, what we have called our aspirational targets, which are linked to the CFR as international standards. What this means is that we can develop a structured English language program divided into levels appropriate to students' needs. As you can see, on the left are the baseline study results. And I said earlier, we set aspirational targets based on the baseline study, and we make some minor changes when we received the findings from the 2017 evaluation study. As you can see in the middle there, the aspirational targets for English language education. Preschool working towards A1. Now turn to your right, look at the right, the curriculum targets preschool years 4 plus and 5 working towards A1. Now look at year 6. Our target for year 6 is A2, but look at the curriculum target. Year 1, our children just come from preschool. We want to make them enjoy and love their English lessons. So they are still working towards A1. Year 2, we hope that our children will achieve A1 low. Year 3, A1 mid. Year 4, A1 high. Year 5, A2 low. Year 6, A2 mid. Now, in what ways is important? It is important because our teachers can actually check the progress of their students, see whether they are moving towards the target proficiency levels. If they have not, something must be done. At least the teachers are aware of our students' proficiency level. Now let us look at secondary. For our secondary, if you look at the aspirational targets, Form 3, it is B1. That's our target. Form 5, the target is B1 as well. And look at the curriculum targets. Form 1, revise A2. Form 2, A2 high. Form 3, B1 low. Form 4, B1 mid. And Form 5, let us hope our dream will come true. Our students, most of our students will achieve B1 high. If we do the work well, if our teachers make sure that the students are taught and learned and love their English lessons, I don't see at all that we cannot achieve these targets. We will and we shall. Now, let me share my thought on this. We cannot build the future for our young people, but we can build our young people for the future. And that is very important. We prepare them for the future. Now we need to bring the outside world to the classroom to develop intercultural awareness, to prepare our young people for the reality of life, to cope with the demands of the 21st century world. Now, how do we do this? How do we do this so as not to overload our teachers with more work? We have great empathy for our teachers. They have so much work, so we need to reduce that workload. For now, we make this work accessible to the children through international textbooks, while at the same time our people develop the knowledge and skills required to produce textbooks good enough for our children. Nothing but the best should be for our children. Now, our own way of life, our values, can be used to show the differences and similarities between our own world and the world of the characters in the textbooks. With appropriate guidance from the teacher, our students can develop critical thinking. They can compare their own life to those characters in that textbook and see how similar and how different they are. We are all creation of God, so we should try to make sure that our children understand that and understand the world beyond their little world, their village, the state, the country, and outside to the world at large. And all this have been integrated in the curriculum documents and the learning materials. Now, it is very important for us also to create an environment that will strengthen our students, that will strengthen independence of thought. If we want to develop a child who is autonomous, a child who is able to express his own feelings and views and thoughts, we need to strengthen this independence of thought of our children. We need to make sure, we need to strengthen our students' judgment and action. And we also need to combine all this with social skills and responsibility. As we have said so many times, there's no use having intelligent people without any responsibility. There's no use having intelligent people who are rude and do not have good social skills in order to be able to interact with people. And this is especially important for our teachers. Next, we do need to give our teachers support, continuous support, to enable them to build capacity. As I said before, reform involves change. Reform involves changes in the way we do things. For example, the adoption of the CFR leads to changes in the curriculum, leads to changes in learning materials and assessment. These are all linked to the CFR. People have said, what about our children? Will they be confused? Let me tell you this. The children, of course, will not be aware of the change. They will not get confused because there will be nothing for them to get confused about. Going to class and learning English is routine just as before. In fact, they will enjoy the learning as the experience of using English for communication is more enjoyable. They can do things with English. But it is different for our teachers. Teachers are affected by the change. The challenge is for us all to respond more effectively to the change. What do we need to do to reform our English language education? As I said before, we need to change. Change begins with a critical evaluation of what we have done so far. Change also requires looking forward to what we need to do in order to improve the way we do things. In the context of English language education, change involves evaluating our current practice, improving it in order to give our students a kind of English that they need to function in the world of work that requires the use of English. And this is our greatest challenge. But change we must, for the sake of our children, for the sake of our teachers. Now, when we talk about knowledge, there is always this question, how do we pass How do we pass on appropriate knowledge and skill? It is very expensive to pass on knowledge to all the teachers. It's very expensive indeed. And we may not have the money to do so. So if you've got to adopt a particular approach in order to cascade this knowledge, this is where the master trainers come in. We make sure that our master trainers that we have selected are trained by people who know best. And from the master trainers, this knowledge will be cascaded. Now the challenge for us is not about designing the reform. We have designed the reform. We've got the whole roadmap. But about how the reform can be put into practice successfully. And this can be done by passing on the knowledge gained from Cambridge English to the teachers, working closely with them, supporting each other to build capacity as quickly as possible. And teachers, please give our master trainers a bit of space. Some of them are young. And if you could support them, if you could see them as part of us, working together to help our children, that we forgive them for certain things they are not able to do. But more importantly, that we should work together so that with working together, we improve our practice. Besides our master trainers, our teachers can gain knowledge. Knowledge by reading the materials prepared for the teachers. We've got lots of materials, including curriculum documents. If we can spend time, a bit of our precious time, for the sake of our children, look at the curriculum, look at the framework, look at the syllabus, look at the scheme of work, look at the learning materials that we have for our teachers, so that we can help you. At the same time, teachers can help us. We are talking about helping the master trainers. They are teachers themselves. And very importantly, for this reform to succeed, we've got to have the right mindset and the right attitude. The right attitude is to care beyond the self, to believe that what we do will help our children to improve. And the right mindset is willing to learn, willing to unlearn, and willing to relearn, and create new knowledge, and link this new knowledge, whatever we have learned in the past. Any person alone will find it difficult to meet the challenge, but working together as a team, we can do it. Remember our children. We were like them before. Please give them a chance to develop their potential. Finally, many people have said, why have we adopted the CFR? Why haven't we come out with our own framework? We need to look at ourselves. How many years have we got? We set a vision, we set a deadline for ourselves in 2025. By 2025, we need to achieve our aspirations. We need to make sure that our children are proficient, so that when they go to university, they don't have to learn proficiency English anymore. So while the CFR is recognized as a useful guide in helping Malaysia, in helping us to reform our English language education system, make informed policy decisions, and compare our English language education system with countries around the world, it must be remembered that English in Malaysia is taught by us Malaysians. It's taught for Malaysians. And through a curriculum that is aligned to international standards, but is grounded in Malaysia culture and values. So when we talk about curriculum, CFR Malaysia, it is our work. We have adapted this to make our own. And it is our own. But what we do is we just refer to the best practice. And this best practice we have adopted in order to improve our English language education. And for our children, we give this as a gift to our children. They may not be able to say thank you to us because they don't know what it means. But they will say thank you to us once they've got a job, once they hold a position. As I would like to say thank you to my teachers for making me the way I am now. Thank you.